know, when I'm home, I don't worry about work.
Put
I'm
the
not
phone
on my
away.
phone. Yeah. I mean, I don't necessarily put it away, but you know, you text me, I see your text, but I'm not focused on work. I'm not paying attention. I'm not ignoring the family, because a lot of people, they go home and they're still working.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people end up divorced that way because they don't realize that they're not present, because they're physically there, but they're not.
Absolutely.
And eventually that will take a toll on any family or any relationship.
Yo, welcome to another episode of the Founder Podcast. Today, I am joined by Mr. Brad Lee. In fact, we're sitting in his studio. Super excited to be here in Las Vegas. Brad, as many of you guys know, is a serial entrepreneur, founder of LightSpeed, has built an incredible personal brand through internet marketing. He's got a big following on Instagram and runs an incredible podcast himself. Welcome to the show, Brad. How you doing?
Thanks, buddy.
Dude, good to have you. So tell me, Brad, I don't know your whole story. Where'd you grow up? Where are you from? Are you originally from Vegas here?
No, moved here in 91, so damn near.
Okay.
How old are you?
I'm 39. How old are you?
Yeah, so basically when you were a young lad, I was down here trying to make stuff happen. I'm 54.
54.
Yeah.
Dude, you look good for 54.
Why? Thank you, sir.
Dude, that if I look that good at 54, I'm feeling pretty good about myself.
You know, it's funny. I was saying the other day, because I had a couple young whippersnappers making fun of me because I was old. And I said, brother, we need to all pray to be old.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. You see these old people, you're like, oh, I don't want to be that old. Yes, you do, technically.
Yeah.
Because if you never make it that old, that's sad. So
That's true.
Believe it or not, when you see these really old people, you're thinking, man, I'd hate to be that old. Change your thinking. You want to be that old someday.
Absolutely. No, I can 100% concur with that. I had a near-death experience in March. Had a head-on collision with a drunk driver coming at me 120 miles an hour. I had two of my boys in the car.
No way.
Yeah, definitely got me in a point of thinking like, man, I'm grateful to be alive. You know, grateful for any day that I can be older than right now. So,
well, you know what's crazy is I learned that a long time ago, and I wake up every morning with the same gratitude. I use it to shift my perspective. I always ask people, you know, what would you do if I just handed you $1 million? And they go, wow, man, are you kidding me? I say, think about how that would feel. They're like, oh, that'd be amazing. You know, what kind of problems would you have? None. I'd be so relieved. I'd be so excited. And I said, but you wouldn't take it if I said you couldn't wake up the next day. They're like, well, of course not. So you agree that waking up is worth more than $1 million, technically worth more than probably any amount of money. So when we wake up in the morning, how come we don't act the same?
absolutely.
So if people can shift like that, they start to realize, man, gratitude is really, I think, the secret to, you know, living a more fulfilled life.
Yeah.
You know, I'm happy the second I wake up. The day is going to be great no matter what, unless, of course, I don't make it through the day. But gratitude's huge. Did you get pissed off and want to punch some faces?
Absolutely not.
I would have.
I do. You
hit me head on with my kids in the car. I'm going to bust your face open.
So the interesting thing is, like, I expected to act that way because I usually react that way. But in the moment, I was just grateful to be alive.
Especially like, 120. What was he doing going 120?
Just drunk, just an idiot, you know.
Wow.
And it was a 2-lane road, and I had a semi in the other lane, so I couldn't swerve that way, you know. And he was coming at me in my lane, so I had to bail, and we bailed at the same time. Wow. It was an interesting, but yeah, I totally understand the desire to act pissed off, but man, it was such a shock that I didn't even realize what happened. You know, it was crazy. So Brad, you're 54. Obviously, you've done some things right. You got an incredible, successful business. Several, nice, and married and
yes.
Kids. Tell us about your family. What's most important to you right now at age 54?
Most important, relationships. You know, you learn after a while that relationships are the thing everybody worries about when they're on their deathbed. Relationships are where all the money comes from you'll ever receive. So I always try to focus on relationships more than anything. I don't, want to have a tragedy to realize how valuable they are. So I kind of, I would say relationships.
Absolutely. So like what relationships are absolutely key in your life? Like who pushes you, motivates you? Do you have a coach? I mean, what keeps you going every single day right now?
Well, what keeps me going is the fact that I haven't arrived. I haven't reached the destination. I had a big goal for myself, and until I get there, I'm just motivated to get there. So I self-motivate myself.
Nice.
Things motivate me. I'm inspired by people and, achievements, et cetera. But I don't have a coach. I just kind of try and figure it out myself, which is foolish because one of my things I tell people is if you want to get anything you want in life, first thing you got to figure out what it is, which is hard enough.
Right.
Then secondly, you figure out how to get it, which is the easy part because you just find someone who's already got it. And then you basically do what they did.
Yep.
The politically correct way to say it is model what they did, when in reality, it's copying. You copy what they did, and more than likely you'll get what they got because, like action causes like result.
So what are those things that you're pushing for right now? You said you got to figure out what you want. What do you want right now? What is getting Brad out of, becoming the best, pushing for goals? I mean, what do those goals look like at age 54?
Well, ultimately, from a financial perspective, I want to reach $1 billion valuation, whether it's one of my companies or a collection, all of them. I don't really care as long as I exit with the B word. That's mainly because I think when I was younger, I thought a millionaire was you could do anything you want.
Right.
You could have anything you want. And then I finally reached it, and it's like, it's not true. You can't, it's not as great as I thought. So I think the B word is my new found millionaire.
Right.
And I'm not going to stop till I get there or die. So either way, I'm on my way. And that's what keeps me motivated. Like I have to get there. I'm a long ways from it, but, I see a clear path of how to get there. That's what I'm focused on, growing my companies, creating opportunities for other people, ultimately helping other people. Because if you think about it, Zig Ziglar said it best, the best way to get what you want is to help others get what they want.
Absolutely.
And once I realized that is the truth, I spend my life now, believe it or not, sounds fake, but it's true. I try to help other people. So I've started several companies that literally help people get out of the rat race, make money. Because there's a lot of people out there, they're not even making $500,000 a year.
Yeah.
I would say very few do.
Right.
And it's ridiculous. Everyone should be able to make $500,000 a year.
I agree.
Number one, you're going to have to sell something. Period. I've never met anyone successful my whole life that isn't selling something to somebody. So you have to become a skilled salesperson, closer. A lot of people shy away from it. They claim they're not very good at it, and I argue that they're very good at it. They just don't realize it. They're like, what do you mean? Well, you've been selling yourself short your entire life. That's number one. So obviously you're selling yourself. So I teach people how to sell, close, and persuade, influence, build personal brands, gain confidence. Once that's achieved, they start going out and finding things to sell and, businesses to get in. So I thought, listen, I've got all these people coming to me to learn these things. Why not create the vehicle for which they can, execute? So I started financial services company, Real Financial. The reason why is because it's insurance. Believe it or not, the financial services industry has created more millionaires than any other industry on earth. So I created Real Financial as a vehicle. And then I created Real Merchant Services as a vehicle. Why these? Well, I looked around and tried to find everything that had to do with recurring revenue, because I think recurring revenue is the key.
Absolutely.
So I've got the software, which is the main company you mentioned, the one you're sitting in. This is LightSpeed VT. It's a web-based interactive training and communication platform. I'll tell you how I started that, since this is the founder podcast. And then I started these other ones based on a personal brand. So it took me 20 years to create this into an 8-figure company. And it took me 1.5 to 2 years to create those other ones into 7, almost 8-figure companies in the last year and a half. And it was very,
It's amazing.
Yeah, it was crazy based on a personal brand. So I recommend everybody start building a personal brand, because 3 to 5 years from now, you're going to be wherever you are, with or without one.
Right.
So why not do the work now to where 5 years from now you have one? And if you have one, it's incredibly powerful.
So when did you make the switch into building your personal brand? Like when did the light bulb go off and like, all right, I'm going to start focusing on that?
Probably about 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Some of my clients were, big name people, Tony Robbins, Grant Cardone. But Grant, I kind of found him when he was training car salespeople.
Yeah.
And he wasn't very big. Of course, the internet wasn't around very much at all, technically. And I helped him build a platform and create a massive training company. And I helped him and watched him grow rapidly on social media.
Yeah.
And I saw the power that it had. And, obviously when you take what I said earlier, see what people do and do what they did.
Right.
So I just said, listen, I'm going to have a personal brand. I know it's going to blow up my main business, which it did and it does, but I didn't really realize the true power that it had. I can start companies relatively easily. I can partner with or acquire other companies and blow them up simply with a personal brand.
Right.
So that's kind of the obvious answer. I watched everybody else leverage their brands and blow up their businesses. So
have you heard the rule of 7 when it comes to like content consumption?
No.
Yeah, I actually saw and read about this the other day. It's absolutely phenomenal. Basically, the subconscious cannot distinguish between hanging out with somebody and consuming their content. And so the rule of 7 states, if someone consumes 7 hours of your content or hangs out with you for 7 hours, they consider you a friend. Okay. At 50 hours, you're considered a close friend. And at 300 hours, you're considered a best friend. And so when you're putting out this personal brand, this personal content, essentially as people consume it, whether it's on Instagram, a podcast or whatever, once they hit that 7 hour, now Brad's my friend. 50 hours, man, me and Brad, we are really close friends. You have no idea who this human being is, but they think you are, subconsciously right there. And that's the reason why you have so much influence. The power of influencer marketing is you have all these best friends everywhere that will consume and take your advice over anything. It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah. Well, it's a fact.
Yeah, pretty awesome. So you started LightSpeed. Was that your first business that you started?
Technically, I tried some other ones in the past, but shut them down.
Yeah, LightSpeed was the first big success.
LightSpeed was the first one I stuck with.
Yeah, all right, very good.
Because if I would have stuck with the other ones, I probably would have made them work. It's just I don't play games that I can't win.
Right.
And whenever I convince myself, oh, this isn't working, you might as well give up because that's,
so
poison.
Obviously there's been a bunch of experiences that led you to that mindset, right? That you only do things that you're going to win at. So like, let's back up before LightSpeed, before all these things, and tell us about like where your career started and how you eventually became an entrepreneur, or were you an entrepreneur right from the get-go, just trying to figure it out?
Well, I was entrepreneurial from the get-go. I used to, go to the Little Red store by my school and buy gum and then go sell it for more. So I was always entrepreneurial. They gave me a box of candy bars when I was in first grade to go sell. Turned out I found out I was a great salesperson.
Nice.
Came out with a slick little spiel that got me, people buying boxes at a time. But really what turned me into an entrepreneur per se was I helped somebody make some money and change their life. I watched a family go from minimum wage, broke, struggling, no confidence, to making money and confident. And I watched that transformation and I thought, man, I've got the ability to do this for people. Why am I sitting here working at a job when I could quit and go help people transform? Mm-hmm. And so I quit my job to go start a training company.
How old were you at that point?
30.
30 years old.
Yeah. Up until 30, I was just selling and, trying to get rich for myself. If I were helping you, it was to help me. I didn't really care about you. You know, I just wanted to sell you something and make a commission and get rich.
Yeah, quick money. What would you say your net worth was at that point when you decided to go and start your own business?
Probably negative a couple $100,000.
So you're in debt for house, cars, different things. Okay,
Yeah. Child support and everything.
All right, very good, very good. And so you go and you start this first business. You take the leap. Tell us about that.
Well, again, I was working, making about $500,000 a year, thinking I was cool. Helped this kid, liked what I felt like and, did. So I'm like, I'm going to do this more. So I quit my job to go start a training company. And it was called Desert Sales Academy. Matter of fact, it still is. LightSpeed is a DBA. But so I started and I went out to start training people.
So this was in 1999.
Yeah.
Okay.
Salespeople. And I went out on the road and I started, knocking on doors and getting people to pay me to train their teams. And after a while, I ran into competition. I got a few deals, but I had no name, no budget. And I ran into competition. And I ultimately asked the people that were telling me they used this person or that person, well, if I had this person, would you buy it? And they're like, well, yeah, if you had that person. So I just started closing the experts instead of the businesses. And then I helped the experts go get the businesses. Right. And how that transpired is, again, I was going to be the sales trainer. I was going to go compete with Grant Cardone and, all the Brian Tracy, all the big name speakers that were out there, trainers that were out there, like Brian Tracy, Tom Stuker, Grant Cardone, Joe Verdi. The list goes on and on.
Right.
So I went out there, and ultimately when I started, I realized when I was doing it that I couldn't figure out why it wasn't working like it used to. Because I used to be able to grab somebody from anywhere, Burger King, shoe store, landscaper, didn't matter. I could take them and within a couple of months have them crushing. And when I went out to train people, it wasn't working like that anymore. And I couldn't figure out why my stuff wasn't working. And I'm like, this is crazy. I quit my job for this and now it's not working. And I couldn't figure it out. Plus I was out on the road, sleeping out of hotels and living out of suitcases. I had a family, a wife that wasn't happy, and here I am thinking, I'm going to make this work. Well, at some point I said, I got to figure out why this isn't working anymore. So I went back and looked at what was I doing prior to what I'm doing now. And I found 4, I call them ingredients that are mandatory for effective training. Good content, which is how do you do it in the first place? Because if you train someone to do it wrong, they'll do it wrong. So if you're effective at training someone, you got to train them the right way. So good content. The next one is repetition, practice, and then accountability. And when I quit my job to go do it for other people, there was no repetition, there was no practice, and there was no accountability. All I was delivering was the good content.
Right.
And a lot of companies are still doing that. They think they're training their people, but they're not training them. They're exposing them. So once I realized this, I'm like, man, I got to figure out how to deliver repetition, practice, and accountability to make this work. And the only real way to do it was to work for the company.
Right.
I didn't want to work for the company. It was all over the United States. I was running around training people. So I thought, man, there's this thing called the internet. Maybe if I could, record what I say while I'm there, right, and put it online, people can access what I'm saying with repetition. I can practice with them, and I can hold them accountable because I can track it and measure it and give out reports, et cetera. So I set out to build this software.
And what year was that you finally decided to make the shift over to the internet?
2000.
Wow. And that is just when the internet is just first trying to figure it out. You got the internet bubble bursting because everybody's got a URL. Nobody actually has a real business on the internet at that point. So yeah.
I started at .com and the .com bust.
Yeah. Crazy.
So I just knew that if I could put it online and deliver the content virtually, I could deliver it with repetition, practice, and accountability. So I thought, okay, so I went out and created this software. I found a couple software developers and closed them and to do it basically for no money.
Yeah.
I was going to pay them later. So I closed them to build my first version of it, and it worked. So now I'm out selling companies this training system that I developed online. A lot of people didn't get it. I was way ahead of my time, but it worked. That's the funny part. It worked. And so then I ran into competition. And when they started saying, well, we use so-and-so and so-and-so, I said, well, what if I had so-and-so on this online system? They said, oh, if you had them, we'd use it. So I just stopped trying to sell the businesses and went and started selling the experts. Okay. And I would license them my software that I built for me, put their content in it, put their name on it, and then show them where their customers were. Yeah. And they started selling the customers, and it was recurring revenue, and all they were doing was giving access to a platform, a web-based training system. They didn't have to travel. They loved it. I fixed all their problems without even realizing that I did. Why? Well, because I fixed my problem, and coincidentally, it was also their problem because they were doing the same thing I was doing.
Right.
And so when I fixed their problem, I started fixing the business's problem. Why? Because these people would come in, these businesses would pay big money to have a trainer come in for a couple of days, leave, and it wouldn't last.
Yeah.
And nobody ever knew why. And that's why, because they were only exposing people. So once I discovered this, I started closing all the experts and started taking a piece of their revenues. And next thing
essentially just partnering up and teaming and just, taking advantage of their success.
I collaborated instead of compete.
Right.
So that's kind of how LightSpeed was really born. And then I started getting a little, what I call a sliver to deliver, or a fraction of the action.
Yeah.
And then I started just signing them up, all of them, Grant Cardone, Joe Verdi, all the ones I was going to compete with. I started, just collaborating with. And then it got bigger and bigger. Tony Robbins, Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy, John Maxwell, like all the big names now.
Right.
And so they were using my software, and I was just taking a little piece from all their success, and that made me money.
Yeah.
And then we just said, screw it. Let's not worry about me being the star or the trainer. Let's just help trainers and subject matter experts and businesses develop world-class training systems to actually develop their people. And that's what we've been doing ever since. So we just focus on the technology and supporting our clients.
Nice. So throughout the time, you never brought on a partner, always been 100% you?
No, I've brought on and bought out several.
Okay.
Made all the mistakes you would expect.
Nice.
In the very beginning, I had a couple of buddies, so I just gave them a third each to come on, let's start a business. And so they're like, sure. And I gave them a third each. And, after a while, it sounds like the Steve Jobs story where they literally formed a board and tried to vote me out. Wow. But fortunately, when I started the company, I had bylaws, and there was a clause in the bylaw that basically said that I'm the boss no matter what. So they tried to get me fired and ousted, and figured out that didn't work. So I fired them and ousted them. But unfortunately, I already gave them equity, so I had to buy them out.
Yeah.
But now the only partner that I have is the guy that built it originally for me. I gave him a piece so he would never go anywhere. And fortunately, I did, because if he would have went somewhere a long time ago, we wouldn't probably be. I mean, we'd probably be sitting here, but with some completely other business.
This was your developer, the one that actually did the building of the software. That's awesome.
So now it's just him and I. But man, I've went through all kinds of nonsense.
Yeah. Have you ever considered like an exit, bringing on private equity, anything like that? What's the end game with LightSpeed?
I've never considered private equity because I wasn't smart enough. I didn't know anything about that. Yeah. So I never aggressively pursued that. But I've always thought about an exit, but I'm not there yet. In other words, I want a major exit. And in order to get one of those, you have to have, major EBITDA.
Right.
So I'm just growing and growing and growing. And, I'm getting close to where I could probably have a pretty considerable exit, but not close of my goal. So I have to keep going.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's awesome, man. It's a great story. So along the way, tell me about like where was your journey from like fitness and family and things outside of work? Like, can you kind of walk us through that as you were building this business?
Fitness was never a main concern because, I did well being half fit. By the time my clothes were off, it was too late. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I didn't have to be ripped. So because I was successful with the ladies and whatnot without being ripped, I was never forced to get ripped. I didn't understand and appreciate the value of health and well-being. Since, I think I've learned a few things, and now I believe I'm pretty healthy. I got a 6-pack coming in, probably another 6 months. I'll be probably best shape of my life. But you have to get older and smarter to figure that shit out.
Yeah. Yeah.
But as far as family, I had 7 kids with 4 women. I was married to 2 of them.
Mm-hmm.
So first child was 17.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was like, stupid. But 17 and then 19 and then 23 and then 26 and then 44, let's say, and then 48 and then 52.
So you're married right now.
Yeah.
And you have
Married in 3 with her.
with three children.
Yeah. And then 2 boys with my previous wife.
And so tell me about how is, obviously you've learned a lot, right?
Yeah.
4 different women, 7 kids, right? I mean, there's just tons of lessons in there, right?
Huge.
So tell me how have you grown as a family man, or what has become more of a priority or important to you over the years?
Well, the first 2 were with just randoms. Well, they weren't randoms, but sweethearts, stuff like that. I was young. We weren't married. There was nothing about family life. So those 2, I was kind of immature, naive, and I didn't pay a lot of attention to them. And, I can't even say I raised them,
Right.
Total mistakes. Learned from that. So when I got married, I had 2 boys, spent more time in their life, was a little bit better as a father, but, wanted to be cool and, enjoy life, and didn't understand the value of spending quality time with them. I was still immature. Now, the third set of kids, I'm a much better father. I spend way more time with them, and I think I'm getting it down. So first set, the first 2, I would say terrible. Second 2, I would say decent. The 3 current are, I would say, now I am qualified to say, parenting advice.
Nice. So now that you're 54, what does a typical week look like for you as far as work, family, balancing the whole thing? Where are you dedicating most of your time? How does that look?
Well, I still dedicate quite a bit of time to work, but I believe in priorities, not balance. Mm-hmm. It's difficult to try and create balance.
I agree.
So I don't really balance. I pay attention to what needs to be paid attention to.
Yep.
And the, loudest squeak gets the grease. So I would say on average, I wake up in the morning, go work out, do my little morning routine, spend a little time with the kids, roll into the office about 9:30, 10, put in work till about 5 or 6, and then go home, hang out with the kids.
5 days a week?
7 days a week.
7 days a week. So you're in the office 7 days a week.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, not every single day, but sometimes I take them places and go places. But yeah, I mean, if I'm here, I get up, I come to the office. I like my office.
Right.
You see
Second
why?
home. Yeah, it's a cool spot.
Yeah, cool spot.
Love
It's freaking, I got balconies where I can puff my cigars. It's all stacked stone and brick. It looks nice. It's inspiring. So it kind of makes me want to work. If I stay home, I just want to hang out, play with the kids, do nothing.
Yeah.
And that's what I do too.
Yeah.
When I'm home, I don't worry about work.
Put
I'm
the
not
phone
on my
away.
phone. Yeah. I mean, I don't necessarily put it away, but you text me, I see your text, but I'm not focused on work. I'm not paying attention. I'm not ignoring the family, because a lot of people, they go home and they're still working. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people end up divorced that way because they don't realize that they're not present, because they're physically there, but they're not.
Absolutely.
And eventually that will take a toll on any family or any relationship. So when I go home, I don't really pay attention too much to work anymore. Yeah. And fortunately, I've reached a level of financial security where, I mean, I don't even have to come to work if I don't want to. My checks will still appear whether I show up or not.
Right. Right. What motivates you the most right now? Like, what gets you just excited, like, to be Bradley today? I know you're working towards the billion point, but like, what gets you? Is it speaking in front of crowds? Is it producing content, doing podcasts? Is it being with your team, your family? Like, what motivates you the most right now?
I would say, accomplishing what I started out to do. So building the businesses still motivates me.
What's your biggest regret?
I would say, not reading as many books as I should have. Like I didn't even start reading till about 45. And now like every day I'm in a book for a little bit. I wish I could read. I could have read a lot more. I wish, I would have spent less money trying to impress people. Minor regrets. I don't truly regret anything. Like I regret being a dick to people. I regret, not focus on my children earlier. I regret all the past transgressions and stupidity that I had to go through to basically wake up and learn. So, I mean, I regret all of that.
But it all shaped you into who you are.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like it's hard to say I regret it all because it literally has lent itself as today. But if I could go back and change all that and find out, well, I'd just be an average Joe Blow, working at a Burger King. Well, then I don't regret it.
Yeah.
But we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know what would have happened.
Absolutely.
All I know is what did happen, and I'm happy with everything, and I'm excited to see where it goes. But I would say I regret, little things.
Yeah, for sure.
Nothing major. What's your biggest regret?
Man, what's my biggest regret? Not thinking bigger sooner, probably. There's many.
Are you making the same mistake now?
I think everybody makes it at a level, right? Like I definitely think there's always bigger.
Well, there is.
There's always bigger. There's levels. I just got back from a Harvard program where there's 160 of us that go and attend this ownership program. 25% of them are billionaires, right? Wow. And it's like, and it's people doing crazy crap. Like I had a buddy that became really close. He was part of my living group. They're doing 3.6 billion a year. And I'm just like, man, I am not thinking big enough, Yeah,
I used to say that when people ask me that, I didn't think big enough. People say, what would you do if you could start over? I'd say, think bigger. So I used to say that a lot until I realized I'm still making the same mistake.
Right. Yeah. There's definitely levels to thinking bigger. And so I got to constantly remind myself. I think early on though, that I wasn't even reminding myself to think bigger. I was just like, I filed bankruptcy at the age of, how old was I? In 2011. So at the age of 27, I had filed Chapter 7 bankruptcy, multi-million-dollar bankruptcy. And, after that, I was conservative for a while. And I couldn't even remind myself to think big. It was just like build things, but just enough so that they were sustainable, just enough they were providing a good paycheck, just enough. And so I think that's what I would have done earlier is think a little bit bigger.
Yeah. Well, I think you're going to find that you're still not. Absolutely. And you're never going to. Eventually, you're just probably never going to think big enough. It's just a bummer. Like I used to think, well, I'm thinking big, $1 billion, that's big. But then I was on Necker Island the other day with Richard Branson and watching him launch his space shuttle, Virgin Galactic into space on his island. Islands, galactic, like, come on. I'm thinking to myself, Jesus, I'm not thinking
not
big
even
again.
Close to
like
it.
I was like, $1 billion, like that's chump change.
Yeah.
But what's funny is think about yourself with, let's say 20 feet of illumination in a dark world. Most people think they need to see wherever they're going to get there, and they don't. You just need to see right in front of you. So that's why I think we're always going to continue to realize we're not thinking big enough, because you don't really know what big is. And then when you start getting bigger, you go, oh, well, wait a minute. And then you start hanging around other people. See, you recognize that when you're hanging around billionaires. So it's very critical to hang around people that push and challenge you, because if you hang around people that are, the same or below you, there's no illumination. You start to look at people that are way ahead of you. You go, holy crap, there's more. I'm not thinking big enough. And then by the time I guarantee when I get to $1 billion, I'll be thinking, man, I wish I'd have thought bigger.
Yeah. No, that's actually one thing I wanted to ask you, like, why $1 billion? Why is that the number?
Because my name's Brad and it starts with a B.
Nice.
I like the letter B.
I think $1 billion is phenomenal as well, and definitely, a goal that I have. But to your point, I think arriving at a destination that we previously set rarely brings fulfillment. Right. It rarely is like what we imagined it to be. I remember the first time I made $100,000 thinking that was going to be an arrival point, or the first time when I put $1 million in my bank account, or the first time at, 10 million or whatnot. And all these points, I thought like the heavens would open and like, I would just feel different. But what I found was like nothing changed. Nothing changed. And really, for me, the journey is just like, how do I become the best Chris Lee ever? Right. And really fulfill the capability that God put me on this earth to go and accomplish. Because I really believe that each one of us have a unique ability and a unique mission to bring to this world. And that, at least for me, like that's what I'm trying to figure out what it is, and I think $1 billion is probably part of it. And I think being a great family man is probably a part of it. And I think, being a great influencer and all these different things. But yeah, it's really hard to define exactly what that is. At least for me.
Well, I think being a good family man is what you should be.
Right.
Like, I don't think that should be something that you were called here to do. That's just an expectation.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is an expectation, but regardless, I mean, there aren't many great family men out there.
I think there's more than you think, but I would agree that a lot of us aren't being what we could be.
Right. And that's really what I mean is like hitting that full potential. Like, what is the best father that Chris can be, right? As far as like being involved in my kids' lives, supporting them, being able to leverage my time to the maximum. Right. Not being, as you pointed out earlier, not spending time on my phone or being still at work while I'm at home or those type of things. So you started reading at the age of 45. What are like some foundational books that just changed your life?
The main one that I keep telling everyone they must read is The Four Agreements.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. And then As a Man Thinketh, How to Win Friends, Influence People, Think and Grow Rich, Laws of Success, like all the ones you hear about, Blue Ocean Strategies, the Power versus Force. I like Patrick Bet-David's book, The Next 5 Moves, or Your Next 5 Moves.
That sounds awesome.
Alex Hormozy's books on offers and leads.
Yeah.
Like if you're in business and you want to understand marketing, I would pick up those. I used to think sales was everything. Like if you can sell, man, you're done. But in reality, it's marketing.
Right.
More than sales.
I agree.
Well, a lot of salespeople won't agree because, they don't really know how to market. But the way I say it is if you take a really top-notch salesperson and give them 5 customers to talk to, and you take an average salesperson and give them 500 customers to talk to, the average salesperson is going to outperform the good one.
Right.
Because of the opportunities that they've had
provided
to do
by
business,
marketing.
and that's marketing.
Right.
So I've been really diving into marketing. I've been starting to market LightSpeed, which is crazy because I've pretty much built this place organically.
Yeah.
Word of mouth. I mean, I've done everything to screw this place up and can't seem to do it. But now I'm actually going to try to market and grow exponentially. Which, again, I mean, I should have been doing that this whole time. I could have already been a billionaire.
Yeah.
If I were, let's say, Harvard educated or would have been smart enough to bring in the right people instead of thinking I have to do it all. If I would have been wiser, let's just say, this was already $1 billion company for sure. Mm-hmm. I mean, back in the .com era where they were getting tons of dough for companies that weren't making money, like, this is revolutionary technology. It still is, by the way.
Right.
And it's crazy because people are just starting to discover interactive video. And I've been doing it for, 20 some years. And people are like, you weren't doing interactive back then. Yes, I was. And now interactivity still isn't at the forefront, but it's about to be. You're going to start going to websites, watching videos, watching TV, going to movies, and they're all going to be interactive, choose your own adventure. And people think, well, that's cool and it's engaging and they're doing it because it's cool and you can do this and you can do that. But in reality, it allows you to collect data. And we're in the information age like you wouldn't believe. So data is what's valuable. That's why Facebook and all these platforms are worth so much. Their data collection is ridiculous. Tesla, believe it or not, is damn near a data collection company.
Oh man, they're the top of the game.
Yeah, so data collection is huge, and with interactive courses or videos, you can ask questions and make offers right in the video themselves. So you'll start to see those over the next 3 to 5 years, and then everyone's going to act like it's the latest and greatest, and I'm going to say, dude, that's old news.
Right.
What's next? AI.
You got data collection, marketing, AI. You just brought up 3 incredible topics. I mean, marketing. Luckily, I was able to learn it as a very young entrepreneur. I knocked doors, right? The very just guerrilla type marketing, right? Getting in front of people just by using your own 2 feet, knocking on doors, overcoming initial concerns to even get people to actually spend the time of day with you, right? And then we led the forefront of Facebook marketing in our sector, and so nobody was doing Facebook marketing, nobody was doing Instagram marketing when we in the solar space. We were the pioneers that did it, and man, it was like taking door knocking and putting it on steroids, right? We were knocking screens rather than doors, and that totally changed the game, to your exact point. And that we didn't have the most trained up sales force from a standpoint of, we didn't have professionals that have been doing this for years. We raised 22, 23-year-old kids and just taught them how to close, but we provided them so many leads, so many opportunities that even a mediocre sales guy could crush it, right? And so it's such that right there is probably one of the most powerful things for my audience to understand, is just the power of marketing and getting opportunities in front of people is the most important thing. And then to your point about data collection and AI, man, I mean, this thing, those 2 things are changing the world right now with ChatGPT and everything, that's all the subsidiaries and everything that are coming off of it and deriving from it. It's going to be a wild next 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, I just created an AI avatar of myself.
Yeah.
So literally now I could fly on an airplane for 2 hours, write a script or some content, shoot it back to my team, they'll upload it, and within 10 minutes, I've got a full motion video of me delivering that content. So now I can create content prolifically. And again, that if it's educational based content, man, there's value to that IP.
Oh yeah.
So if I say, hey, listen, I'm going to teach you how to close. I'm going to teach you my ways to prospect. I'm going to teach you the 5 things I did to do this, this, and this. All I have to do is write it now. I don't have to come in these studios. I don't have to, because it's harder than people think.
Yeah.
When I create a 4-hour course, dude, you're in the studio for 8 at least.
Right.
Standing there, your voice goes out, your brain goes numb. It's exhausting. So now it's
versus feeding it a script, and now it's Bradley, talking. They
better
hear your
than
voice,
Bradley.
right?
Better than Bradley. The AI version of me is just as good looking, but it speaks any language. You know what I'm saying? It's
awesome.
better than me, and it doesn't complain and bitch, and his voice doesn't go out. Dude, you're going to start seeing a lot of content come out of me. But people are like, hey, this is AI. Nobody cares.
Right.
I don't care. It's the information they're looking for.
Right. Yeah, it will be interesting to see how that changes the sales game, right? Because you have some of these new tools coming out, like Air AI. I think still a little slow. They do actual live interactions with customers over the phone, resolving concerns, customer service, those type of things. Like I said, still a little glitchy, but man, when that stuff gets dialed in.
Well, when that stuff gets dialed in, we won't need salespeople.
I know. It's crazy. It's scary.
AI salespeople.
Right.
Because they'll say everything you taught it to say perfectly, which means now you don't even have to train salespeople.
Yeah.
A lot of people are like, oh, they're going to take all our jobs. Not if you leverage it.
Right.
Again, I'm not afraid of AI because I'm going to be using it.
Right.
But if you ignore it, I'm telling you, you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, my favorite saying is AI won't take your job. Somebody that uses AI will.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I always say, and I have for years, there's only going to be 2 kinds of companies that remain in the future. Those who make technology and those who use it.
Mm-hmm.
There will be no other, though. Everyone else is going out of business. You better use it or make it.
Love it. Love it. Well, Brad, I appreciate your time, man. You've been dropping some incredible knowledge on us and incredible everything for my audience. I appreciate it. I know your time's extremely valuable. What is one last piece of advice you give to a young entrepreneur that's looking at founding their business, or maybe somebody that's been in business for a while and just doesn't know where to take the thing or really move it to the next level?
Yeah, I would just tell them to get started. What's the worst that can happen? They learn a few lessons the hard way, big deal. Get started. That's the key. Most people, they're so worried about other people's opinions. They're so worried about failing that they don't do anything, or they're too careful. I would say, be a little bit reckless and get going, because that's the key, man. There's people out there that are so worried about failing that they don't do anything.
Absolutely.
And if you're going to, shoot an idea past somebody and let that person shoot it down, it'd be better to go out there and prove to yourself whether it works or not. I was told 1,000,000 times this that you're sitting in will never work.
It's amazing.
And millions of dollars a year are now generated. And through my software, hundreds of millions of dollars are generated. So it's like, if I would have listened to people, I wouldn't be in business. So my advice to people is don't listen to people.
I love it. Love it. Appreciate your time. Thanks, Brad. Until next time.